Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Climbing Sycamores podcast, where we look at today's topics to get a better view of Christianity. I'm Annie Beege, and I'm joined by my friends Ben Sadler and Matt Harbach.
You're listening to WNPR.
Happy New Year! VOTL.
What?
Happy New Year.
Well, I broke my, I don't make resolutions, but I thought, maybe I'll try dry January. Nope. Day 2.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so,
Dry as in not drinking?
Yeah, and I think, the idea maybe now it should be dry-ish, like just be more mindful, so maybe, and honestly, think about it. You can't just make these drastic changes. Like, I'm going to omit drinking. No, just reduce.
All right, I will omit drinking if you omit drinking.
That's
we'll
not
do this
fair.
together.
You have to omit energy drinks if I
We will
omit
do
drinking.
this together.
No, that's baloney because you don't even drink. If you omit energy drinks, perhaps.
Would you actually take me up on that?
Maybe. Oh, I don't know.
You've heard it first on the podcast.
Breaking news. Matt Harbach gives up his energy drinks.
Well, you kind of already broke yours, so we'd have to find...
I don't want you to have a heart attack.
We have to find a similar starting point.
I mean, we could start now. I mean, after, wait. Let me consider my week. Let me tell you
sorry.
Find a suitable starting point. I don't know, but let's explore that maybe. I don't know.
Put some money on.
Ooh.
I could see Annie coming back. I'm out.
Seinfeld.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the next day, just throwing my money on the ground, on the table. I'm out.
I'd put money on it. We'll talk about this
I
afterwards.
think I was actually talking to somebody recently about how hazardous goals are for this person. Because goals mean that it's like an end point. And like, if I get it, then I can overindulge on the other way. Like, oh, I made it to that point. And if it's something that's bad for you, you want to create habits that says, I want to be the kind of person who's not using this.
Yes.
Now, drinking is up for debate on how much you can or what does it do to you, anything like that. But if it's like something that's really detrimental to your health or something that you actually need to stop, then a goal is probably not the best thing. But all right, how can I craft a day-by-day habit so that I don't fall back into this? So
Well,
it's just interesting that,
I think just making small, I was talking to my hairdresser and just making small adjustments, like instead of saying, I'm only going to eat vegetables, you could say, I'm going to really focus on adding more vegetables so that you're not kind of setting, and it isn't just a goal like, oh, now I only eat vegetables. It's like, you can maintain a lifestyle that way. But I liked your sermon this week, even though I don't like resolutions and I don't believe in them. I do think it makes sense to kind of take a look at yourself and say like, okay, the holidays are over, the parties are kind of over, the indulgences are over. And so maybe now is a good time to kind of just rethink through some things.
Yeah, I've thought of them as dials. Like, does one need to be dialed up or dialed down? Is there any feedback from my body that's saying this is not good, and do I need to listen to that? I think that can be helpful too. Like your body will let you know if you're out of whack in one area. But the big point of that, maybe could I go first since you jumped into it?
Please.
All right, I'll do the first topic. The big point of this sermon was you can have all these goals, all these dreams, all these hopes to make these changes that are necessary. But what I have found in myself and others is what keeps people from really starting or keeping is shame. And we talked a little bit about the difference between guilt and shame. So guilt is a good thing, and it's interesting in our therapeutic culture. I mean, even when we had that clinical therapist here, a Christian therapist, she talked about how kind of secular therapy, their goal is to get rid of all guilt and kind of reason it away why you shouldn't feel bad about some things. And it's not all bad to feel bad sometimes. If you did something wrong, you don't want sociopaths. You want people to their conscience to be pricked and say, I'm sorry. But shame, that's a real different thing. That's like this cloud that's nebulous that you can't really grab onto, but it just kind of follows you around, that I'm totally worthless. There was actually a study done now called the Adverse Childhood Experience Study. I think we talked about it before, but it started as a weight loss study. And this doctor was seeing these incredible results. For some people, they were losing all this weight, and then they were immediately gaining it back. And he found that the people who immediately gained it back were people who had had adverse childhood experience, sexual abuse or physical abuse in their childhood. And they saw weight gain as either a coping mechanism or a safety mechanism. Well, no one will find me, no one will notice me if I just stay kind of unhealthy looking. And it was just this cover of shame. They didn't feel like they deserved it because this thing happened to them. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. And, I don't know what you guys thought about that idea, that understanding the difference between guilt and shame, and how shame, when it becomes your whole identity, I'm a shameful person, that I don't, even if I could change, I'm not going to change because I don't deserve to change. How shame is different than guilt. Have you ever heard that distinction before? What do you guys think?
Not really. I haven't, but I can kind of apply it. And I wonder too, if you can ever escape shame. Like, can you ever do enough?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So
Correct.
I think about some, moms, I think especially have a lot of mom guilt,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a friend who really has this, and now that we're talking about it, it seems almost more like it's like shame. Like,
Yeah.
can't ever quite do enough, even though she's like dynamite. She's
Mm-hmm.
great, works hard, takes care of the kid. It's like just great person
Yep.
and great mom, but yet always feels like she's never doing enough. And it's almost more like now we're thinking she's like living in like a world of shame.
Mm-hmm.
But could you ever really get out of that? I don't think it's bad to say, if you're feeling like, I think we've all had moments of imbalance where we're like, I've been kind of lazy lately, or I could probably spend more time with the kids, or spend more time doing this or that. And so kind of like the dials, turning it up or down. But I don't know that for her, there's anything like she could be doing that would
Right.
absolve her of her feelings of shame. Because that's what it seems to me more like shame than guilt.
Right.
Is that shame?
I don't know. Is
Well,
it?
so that's when it becomes all encompassing, where it's so guilt
Where do
is
you
like
cross the line?
guilt is like, I did something wrong, and so I'm going to go to that person and say I'm sorry. But shame is this idea that no matter what I do, I'm always wrong. And even if I tried, I shouldn't even try because I'm going to be in the same place anyways. I can't do any better. Shame is an identity. It comes from maybe guilt. Like, you have this guilt, like, okay, maybe, yeah, like you said, maybe I didn't do the perfect thing for my kid this time, but then you kind of blow that up as your whole identity, that this is the only thing that represents who you are. And this is your identity. So you can't escape from it in the same way I think maybe you could for guilt, where you go to God and ask for forgiveness, and you go to the person, ask for forgiveness. And then if you, like it says in the Old Testament and the New Testament, if you stole someone's property, give it back. If you hurt someone's feelings, apologize, do what you can to amend that relationship. But with shame, it's not about the person, it's not about the kids, it's not about the actions, it's about the identity. So you have to find a way to find a new identity. That's kind of what the point of the sermon was, get a new identity. And that, I believe that happens when you really accept what the Bible says about your identity, that you're made by God. You're also, I think it happens when you accept the forgiveness of sins, that He loves you, He's happy with you. And then third, I think when you start to have a more healthy understanding of your purpose, and you get it off yourself. So these kids that this mother is concerned about, is the shame making her a better mother? Probably not. It's probably making her worse, right? Like, it's self-defeating prophecy, where if you're so ashamed, then you don't want to do anything. You don't want to do anything. Then you're neglecting those people you care about. And so sometimes I think one of the ways to break out of that is to just see the needs of your kids in that moment and take care of that need, and see that purpose in your life, so that you get off thinking about yourself altogether. Think about those kids and what they need in the moment.
Well, I almost wonder if in this case, it's an idea that doing everything for your kids and not this might sound selfish, but not taking any time
Right.
for you.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And
That's important too.
It is, whether it's sleep or
Mm-hmm.
socializing with your friends and taking time for yourself, because I think we all need to recharge at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the form is kind of taking, like this, I'm going to completely disregard any need that I might have
Yeah.
and just put it all into my husband and my kids.
Yep. And if you're not getting sleep and if you're not taking care of yourself, it's easy to have irrational ideas. It's hard to like tone down the irrational thoughts, so yeah, I think that's really important. And yeah, maybe to do the opposite where you recognize that your kids are going to do some things that screw up. They can take care of themselves more than you think. It's not all riding on you, all those things. Yeah. Facing some of those lies.
But in her mind too, it's probably like I'm being selfless.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I am, not being selfish at all. I'm giving everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has to stem out of guilt, right? Somehow,
Mm-hmm.
if you're,
I have to make up for it.
yeah, in some way, not always, but in some cases like that, I think that comes from that. Got to make up for it, or
I do think it's a huge identity issue. And I guess that's what I wanted to talk about. Like if you feel like you're not worthy of care, of sleep, of food, of exercise, of entertainment or joy or whatever, if you don't feel like you're worthy of any of those things, you won't attend to those things. If you don't feel like that God cares about you, that you have to make up your own value, you have to make up your own worth, and that debt column is so bad that you can never make up for that. I think that's what keeps people stuck in those cycles. But if somehow you can see a better reality that you're not an accident, God knew you before the creation of the world, that he gave you those kids as an opportunity to serve, not as your whole identity, not as the thing that you have to base your life on, but as something to do. I mean, it's a responsibility, but not your identity. And if you can get there, I think you can find a little freedom. What do you think, Matt?
Yep. Sounds good.
how do you deal with guilt?
I don't. I
Okay.
just let it build up.
Yeah, but then is there ever a point where it it crosses a line to become shame? Or do you ever get anybody can guilt become, so bad where you cross a line over into shame? Where does that line happen? And
I don't know. I mean, when Ben said that you differentiated the two, one says that I did something wrong, one says that I am something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I had also never really heard that distinction. That makes, like, those words make sense to me. I don't know how that plays out in somebody's life, like when one becomes the other.
I think a healthy person, when you say, hey man, that really hurt my feelings, or that was not cool, or don't do that, or you said you're going to do this, you didn't do that. A healthy person says, oh man,
My
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that again. And then, even can, as they reflect on the day and go to God and say, God, this revealed my selfishness, forgive me, and take the Lord's Supper and receive all that forgiveness. I think that's one way. But if you were to say, like, hey man, that really hurt my feelings, I know I'm always doing that. That's just who, and
It's just
and
who
then
I
and then you
am.
spend
Yeah.
the rest of the day, no matter how many times you go to God and no many times you say you're sorry, it becomes this all-encompassing thought that's in your mind all the time. I knew it. This proves what I always thought about myself. I'm never going to be any different. That's what I do. And then it's like a self-sabotaging. I think anyone caught in addictions, this can be this keeps you in that addiction loop. I know quite a few people that made bad choices or things that they've done or things that have done to them. And the guilt is so severe that they go to a coping mechanism, whether that's drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever it is. and then they feel really bad about doing that, and so they go back into
yeah.
that same stuff, and it becomes this never-ending loop, and then it's all covered in this all-encompassing shame where you can't even get out of it, because now it's not I did something wrong, but this is my whole life, this is my whole identity. So I guess there's not the first time I heard it was actually from Brene Brown. She's not a Christian, or not Christian. She's a psychologist. I don't know if she identifies as Christian or not. But I thought, so maybe it's more psychological terms, but I think there is theological terms also. Because like when the Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 7 talked about his sin, he's got this really hard battle with sin, and he goes into detail in Romans 7. He says, the good I want to do, that's not what I do. But the bad that I don't want to do, that's what I keep on doing. But when I do that, it's actually not me. It's sin living in me that does it. And so he didn't identify with that sin. He didn't say, all I am is sin, and this is my core identity. Even when he looked at himself and saw the sin in his life, he kept it at a distance. He didn't see it as his core identity. And I think when it becomes your core identity, that's where, really severe depression, really severe anxiety comes in, because you can't get out of the cloud. You don't see any hope. You don't see any change. So I think that's like a symptom of it, is you have no hope. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. What do you think, Matt?
Interesting that you equated or associated it with an addiction.
Yeah.
Because I think, in my experience, that shame or guilt or self-loathing or whatever you want to call it, that is an addiction too.
Right. Yes. Exactly. You get addicted to that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What feeling? What? How could that be addicting?
Because you identify with it. It's how you feel like you're paying for your sin by always beating yourself up.
Oh.
I think that's what keeps people in that cycle. And, then if you have any good feelings, you like, this isn't normal, I shouldn't feel this way. And because you identify as somebody who's always a problem, so I always have to keep myself on the cross kind of thing. Man. I think, so we're bodies and souls. I think I've said this on the podcast before. So there are physiological reasons, like of being sad or angry or anxious. Like if you don't sleep enough, your kid, just think about like when a toddler doesn't sleep enough and he's sad or angry, like, okay, you just need to sleep. and so for some of this, like when we have depression, anxiety, or all these other, sometimes you need, there's a chemical imbalance, there's a psychological reason, there's a physiological reason. But I think so many people are caught up in addiction, or the addicted to that sad feeling, whatever it is. There's a spiritual reason behind it, and that's the shame. Yeah. So I think that's what. Now this kind of does, I think, dovetail with the Enneagram. I'd spent the last couple weeks read a couple days. My kids got me a gift card to Half Price Books, my favorite place to go. Just wandering in the bookstore, and picked up a couple new books, and two of them were on the Enneagram. And it was fascinating to think about how certain personalities go to a certain, where they go in times of stress. And I think some people are more disposed towards sadness. Some people are more disposed towards anxiety. Some people are more disposed to anger. And I think I know which one you are. And I think I know, I think, right? Like if you're under stress, like you're ready to punch somebody, right?
How did you know? Oh, I feel attacked.
Yeah. And then
Not
some
really.
people, you want to punch me?
Don't go too hard.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But then some people go towards worry and anxiety, like their personality leads them there. And it's almost predictable. Like when they get in that shame cycle or whatever it is, they'll get really anxious. And then some people, it's sadness. And I think you just have to be aware of that. And the root cause isn't always your behavior or what you did. It's the spiritual stuff and the emotional stuff behind it. So, yeah. So I think that's why you're like, how could anyone do that? That's,
Just go punch a wall or something, man. Come on.
So
Kidding, kind of.
I think that's what keeps us from maybe. I think there's a big segment that's where they go. Some people go towards anger. Yeah.
So to shift topic just slightly,
Yeah.
what about a shame culture? Meaning a culture in which there's a critical mass of similar ideology about certain things.
Like honor shame culture, you're saying? Versus
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you mean by that?
So like traditional cultures,
Like you got pregnant, now the town all looks at you weird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in many like traditional cultures, Asia, it's interesting. I think Mexico's on this side of it too. Mexican culture versus like Puerto Rican culture is not as much a shame honor, but a shame honor, and even Middle Eastern, like Jesus's culture that he would have been preaching is more of a shame honor culture. And so keeping the honor of the community is more important than the individual's freedom or liberty or whatever. Like your role is to keep the honor of the community.
And we have the exact opposite of that.
Right. And now we have the, the only goal is to be unique and express yourself and be different.
Celebrate it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Differentiate yourself from the community. It's powerful. It's a powerful means of controlling behavior or there's some things
Is it
that
all bad? Is it
no,
all...
I don't think it's all bad in the sense of like, it creates clear lines of like, what is my role and where do I fit? And it can create really deep bonds, but there's almost no forgiveness. There you punish this person at the expense of to keep the honor. You're showing that you really honor your
Right.
community by totally ostracizing this person from the community, and so that can be really dangerous and really horrible. But I think the other issue, and maybe why there's so much anxiety in our culture, is like if you always have to be unique and you always have to stand out and you always have to be your own version of you or be your best self or whatever that is, you don't know where you stand and you don't know where you fit. And that can create a lot of uncertainty and no clear moral or ethical or even purposeful lines in your life.
But can't you do both? I
Yeah.
think, right? I mean,
I think that's what was so incredible about Jesus is that he did do both, where still had high ethics for the community, and that you should care more about others than about yourself, care more about the community than about yourself, and yet it's okay. And Paul talked about this too, that yes, we're one body with many parts, so we do have unique things to add, but it's still for the good of the community. And I think what a lot of shame honor cultures don't have is the forgiveness. Like, let's bring you back into the community. Let's forgive you and welcome you back in, and we're going to support you. And when they have that, that's the best opportunity. Yeah, but shame is powerful.
Yeah, I think we have almost more of a shame culture than we think we do. Thinking about like the Twitter mobs, like
Sure.
the rules are different, but there's still rules. There's still like collective judgment about certain things.
Who's in, who's out.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no means of, reconciliation,
Right.
forgiveness, welcoming back in, those kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really powerful. Whether it's your friend or whoever it is, I think shame doesn't serve us where guilt can. Guilt can be like, okay, I need, man, I'm overspending, I'm overeating, I'm overdoing that. I'm not caring about this. I need to wake up. I need to change. shame doesn't allow for change because it's a cloud and you just stay stuck in your cloud. And so hopefully people can see those changes and find a whole new identity. And that's what you want to see, man. When you see somebody who's just comfortable in their own skin, that's cool. That's exciting. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that.
I feel attacked.
Good stuff. Same, dude. No, it's
Why do you
fine.
feel attacked?
No, I was just kidding. About
Okay,
my,
all
about my
right.
anger issues.
Oh,
I don't really, but
well, what I love about the Enneagram, as weird as it might be, is like, I think it's good for you to know what is the check engine light on your life when you're not healthy. And if I would say, well, I'm not angry. Well, I don't get angry. That's not my go-to. But if I get sad, like, okay, I need to fix this. And so everyone just to be aware of their own vices and where they go. Yeah.
have you done the Enneagram, Matt?
Yeah, I'm either like a 5 or an 8.
The
But
eight's a peacemaker or challenger?
8 is a challenger.
Challenger, yeah.
Oh.
5 is like a daydreamer.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
5 is somebody who tries to get as much information as they can, and they're afraid to make decisions. So they don't want to.
Yeah. Yes.
They don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to do too much, but until they have all the information, feel they really pride and security.
I was just talking to my friend about this, and my friend asked me, like, why does it always take you so long to like choose off a menu, or like you go to the store and you're just looking at like the crackers or whatever it is. Like, why does it take you so long? It's like, because in my brain there is a right answer.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, look at all these options. It's like, these are all wrong. There's one correct one. And so you have to like just constantly weigh tons of information
Yeah.
and be like, well, this is the price per ounce, but do I really want that much? Maybe I just get a smaller one. Do I like this flavor?
Right.
Yes, but I've already had it. Maybe I should try a new one, but that one's really salty. I already have a bunch of salty snacks at home. Maybe I should get
Oh
something
my
sweet.
goodness. And I would just be like, you're taking too long. Grab a box and go.
Yeah.
This is too much.
You're
I don't
done.
care if I make the wrong decision. Like, we'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
There is a right answer.
No.
Every time I look at a menu or anything, it drives me crazy.
Have you ever been to? I haven't even been there. I just hear like the Cheesecake Factory menu is like
Yeah.
5 pages long.
That's
You
where we
die.
were. That's where we were. It's like a 12-page menu, and you're like, oh.
I would have got up and left.
Call a cab, Matt. We're out of here. Uber your way home.
Yeah, it's a nightmare in there. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So I don't know if that would ever be helpful, but sometime I was like, oh, would it be good to do like a class on that here? And just so like
A guilt shame or an Enneagram.
Enneagram, just so like people would be aware of their deadly sin or their vice, you know, because it's pretty. Not everybody's going to probably fall into the same sin over and over again. You're probably going to, this is the one thing that you're probably going to struggle with the rest of your life. So just to be able to identify that and get after that.
Well, and I think to be able to understand others as well. Like,
Exactly.
other
Have a little
perspe-
empathy.
Yeah, right.
All right. That's good for me. Annie, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I have a tattoo appointment in a couple weeks. Yep,
And
I
what
know.
are you getting?
What's that?
What are you getting? And can you tell us?
Yeah, it'll be on my arm. It's in honor of my mother, and it's going to be like a cameo, which is I actually have a ring on, so it's like a little face with like a thing around. It's a Victorian looking thing. But anyway, so I stumbled across an article that asks if the Bible forbids tattoos, and can you go to heaven if you have tattoos and whatnot. So.
The answer was no.
Well, I'm in trouble because this will be my fifth
Little late.
one.
Yeah, it's a little late for this, isn't it?
Oh well, but I think, yeah. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that and see what the Bible had to say, and yeah.
I think usually what people would say is the Old Testament gives us some wisdom, but if it's not repeated in the New Testament, it's not a binding law in the sense, and so you have to ask, well, why? So it's in Leviticus chapter 19 where it says, do not cut your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. So this is a whole kind of section in morality and what they're supposed to be doing and what kind of sets them apart. Also in this section, it talks about, don't plant in your field 2 different kinds of seed. Do not wear clothing woven of 2 different types of material. Do not shave the corners of your beard or cut the edges of your hair.
Well, see you guys in hell.
And the reason God gave these laws was the whole thing was about keeping Israel separate. And it's supposed to teach them some things. Even the clean, unclean, like you couldn't eat pork or you couldn't eat bats or things like that. Or different types of insects. And the reason was they were to be set apart in every way possible. And the food laws were about eating things that had a clear order to them, that God created things with order, and they fit clearly in the days of creation. But a bat, is that a bird or is that an animal or a land animal? And so it didn't seem to fit clearly. And so the nation of Israel was supposed to be this one that was filled with order and putting together 2 different types of seed. This isn't orderly. It doesn't show the clean organization of creation, and they're supposed to represent God. Now the tattoos, I think that had a lot to do with pagan rituals. You're supposed to separate from the foreign pagan gods that would do lots of different spiritual marks to try to either look like the gods or create sympathy.
Sacrifice to the gods.
Sacrifice to the gods, create sympathy for the gods, go through a painful sacrifice of initiation so that you would get they would feel sorry for you and bless you. This happens when Elijah is battling against the prophets of Baal, and they're cutting themselves to try to get Baal to
pay attention. Okay.
Yeah. Now the next question is it wise? I think that's another thing. Is like
No.
Well, why not?
Well, I mean, I don't think you should. There's kind of the joke, like you go to the bar and then you go get a tattoo late at night and you wake up in the morning like, what did I just, this.
Never done that.
And you look at like, do I want this on my body when I'm 80 years old? Or is this really something I'm excited about long term? So I don't know if it's an idea of right or wrong, but wise or unwise, and why am I doing it? Motivation. And so much of the New Testament is God treating us like adults, asking us like, why are you doing it? And so you're talking about remembering your mother and honoring her. I could see that as a very beautiful thing and a discussion piece and something that's helpful for you and a way for you to go through the grieving process, all those things. So I think that's it's more of a wise, unwise. Are we? It's all in that same chapter. Are we really going to, go condemn people who plant different types of seed and wear different types of clothing and all those kinds of things? That those were specific to that context, that God was using those as a teaching tool. I know Pastor Mike Novotny, who does Time of Grace Ministries, got a tattoo, and then he had a whole article and video series on it too. So I think that could be a helpful resource for people who are wondering about it.
I feel comfortable with it. I feel like I know where I'm going, so I'm not really worried.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if and it seems like the perception in general has changed over the years.
Yes.
Like there were times, when I was first entering the job force,
Sure.
it was like you could not have visible facial piercings, unnatural hair color, visible tattoos. And that was like something you could not do if you were going to work at Starbucks or, Boston store, wherever,
Yeah.
But now it seems like it's just not really a thing. Pastors have, tattoos and, professionals, doctors have, full sleeve tattoos. I'm not going to trust them any less because they have a full sleeve,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah. That's like a Progressive commercial, right? Where the dad's like, he's got tattoos.
Oh, it can't be trusted.
It can't be trusted.
Degenerate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. It's a perception thing. I don't think people care much anymore. Now the face tattoo, Mike Tyson. You think that's a good idea?
Well, he in himself is not a good idea. He I mean, that's a bad example. But we could talk about like Post Malone and the facial tattoos. I mean, are really a thing.
Yeah.
They just look weird to me. It's like I don't even know what I'm looking at right now.
I would not do it myself, but I don't mind it for, outrageous personalities
Sure.
and things like that. Like
For me, it's just like this is a permanent thing, and some of these personalities that you're taking on is a short-lived thing. Are you going to be happy about that in 30, 40 years? That's all.
It seems like a lot of maintenance too, in the sense that like it's a whole aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
So like you can't just walk out the door, throw your hair up, and have a big face tattoo. Like you have to do all the makeup and do the hair to
Yeah.
make it like look presentable.
Right.
I think so. Like.
You got to keep up the whole persona.
You got to keep up the whole persona. Otherwise, you just having a random face tattoo is like extra weird.
Yeah.
But if you're doing the whole look all the time and you're always done up and you're always, and I see it on, my favorite TikTok and I see it, on Instagram. And there's a girl I follow. She's got the word, I think I'm saying it right, me-phobia tattooed under her eye.
Okay.
Like on her cheekbone. And, I gotta Google what it means, but
That just seems like a terrible idea.
yeah, and it's kind of, and I don't know if there's
afraid of myself.
well, I don't know that there's an actual like definition for it, but according to Urban Dictionary, it's the fear of becoming so awesome that the human race can't handle it, and everybody, and so yeah, so she's got this tattoo, and she does all these different makeup looks and
Sure.
whatnot, but yeah, I mean. That to me seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Gotta just stick to like the fruit candy ones you like put on your tongue, and that way it doesn't have to stick around for too long.
yeah.
What are those called?
The fruit roll-ups.
Fruit roll-ups. Yeah.
They have the
Yeah.
tattoos.
Tattoo
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Seems
Well, now
safer.
there is like ink and art that will last a little
Couple
longer.
weeks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give that a shot for a little while. See if in a couple weeks you
Dude,
still
watch
like
out!
this.
I'm gonna show up one day with a temporary face tattoo.
Oh man.
I
think
won't.
I think you could pull it off. I don't think I could pull it off. Matt, you could definitely not.
What would
pull
you
it
get
off.
if you had to have on your face?
This is a terrible idea.
My cousin, he got a ring tattoo, so he doesn't.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
nice.
that's nice. I mean,
I
that's
could
just
dig
like
that.
that
Makes
permanent.
sense.
It's always there.
Oh, if I know the answer to this one, I would just tattoo regular eyes on my eyelids so that they would look open when they were closed, just to scare people.
Or to sleep when you're to make it look like you're awake.
To sleep in our staff meetings, yeah, because I definitely don't do that.
Does this have to do with what we said? If you talk about persona and that like crazy individualism, that I have to make it bigger and
I think definitely like the number
Yeah.
of like piercings, haircut, like just the amount you can customize. People like have to go all out in one direction so that they can look different.
it's like the Madonna to Lady Gaga to whatever
Outrageous.
as far as you can
Yep.
go to. Yeah, and that there's a lot of anxiety there because then you have to keep that going. Like you said, I mean, you have to keep that persona going and it has to keep being extreme. And where is the love for others? I get, wanting to express yourself, though. I understand that, or wanting to say something that's true about human nature, or about life, or whatever, like a artistic expression. I get that, but man, if you make it all by yourself, that's a never-ending rabbit hole. Yeah. Well,
Speaking of
Are you going to
rabbit
take Are you going to? When are you getting this done?
January 16th, I think. And then so that I think I've got 2 sessions. So that'll be one. Then I'll go back in
It'll be color, full color.
No, I think black and white,
Black
like
and white.
grayscale. Yeah.
Now don't you have the Raven Poe or what is
No,
that?
I have a trumpet.
Trumpet.
My dad, and then some others. I actually have Tetelestai tattooed on my lower back.
All right,
Tramp
cool.
stamp.
It is finished.
It is finished.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I have some others that I don't want to talk about
Okay.
on the podcast.
All right. Do you have a topic, Matt?
Yes, I do.
All right.
I was listening to one of the great thinkers of our age, the one and only Bill Burr, the other day. and he was just telling a story about how he was watching the news, and he just when there's like sad stories, like he just can't help but laugh. And his wife doesn't like that because she's like crying, and he'll just burst out laughing and be like just horrific things happening on the news. And then, he was basically like, the news isn't real.
Yeah.
Like nothing you see, like it's what even is it? Like, are we supposed to just, it's obviously trying to manipulate us. And I was sitting there like, well, heck yeah, I agree with everything he's saying.
It's because you're a robot.
Well, it's like, yeah, but it's like, seriously, like it's all just like manipulation, trying to get you to feel one way or the other. It's entertainment at this point. So my question is like, how much do you actually believe the news? And being misinformed or uninformed, I don't know, where do you draw the line?
I don't know if it was Cal Newport or James Clear. They're kind of influencers who talk a lot about habits or things, and not getting sucked into the news. And one of them looks up like January 2023 on Wikipedia and tries to see like, all right, what happened that's worth kind of sticking around. And not that Wikipedia is the best source of news, but they do that as a way of like, what do I need to know that's probably going to be memorable about this month that sticks instead of the 24-hour news cycle? I think there's a couple things that are really dangerous. Is that, it is a 24-hour news cycle. The most horrific or scandalous stories sell. You have to keep that going. The one that breaks the fastest gets the most. So you have to break it fast before you have all the information. You have to keep it going. You have to keep the hype up. Even about like weather, like right before Christmas, it was like, we're going to have a blizzard and we're going to die
days
and everything.
Before.
Yeah.
For days we were hearing about it.
And it's just and then it wasn't that bad. It's interesting, I think, generationally, my parents and then other people like their age are still see traditional news as, reliable or not naively. I think they know that there's issues there, but I think our generation and younger doesn't even bat an eye at that, but are going to other more individual places like you said, TikTok. You're getting stuff from TikTok, or you're getting stuff from Twitter. You're getting stuff and seeing what's trending and seeing how people are responding. And it's more about how are people responding to a news idea, and because then like, all right, it's their opinion anyways. They're just telling me how they're responding to it, not faking to be an objective source. So, yeah, it's really hard. The algorithms drive everything. It's hard to know what actually happened. It's hard to know what to care about. Yeah.
And I don't even know. Yeah, right. I don't even know, because if you ask me, I would say like the biggest thing that's happened, recently is probably like the war in Ukraine. And that did exactly one thing for me, and it raised gas prices. It's like, that's like a global conflict, right? Like that's people losing their lives.
Yeah, you're saying, how is this affecting you? Like if you didn't know about it, it wouldn't affect you?
Right. It's like if I didn't know, I would be like, why is gas more expensive all of a sudden? Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of came back down anyway. I would literally not even think, so it's like, should I care? Should I care? Like, am not getting drafted to go overseas? Is that something I should spend my energy on? Because that's something that's emotionally exhausting if you're just exposing yourself again and again to more news stories that are they're emotionally manipulative. They're trying to get you worked up about something.
And you can't really help.
And what am I? Yeah,
you could maybe donate some money or
I could
something.
Put a flag on my Facebook page and say I stand with Ukraine.
But that's not really helping.
I think it's actually making a big difference, Ben.
I agree. I think I've heard lots of psychologists and therapists really advocate and encourage people. Like, first thing, if you're dealing with anxiety or depression, turn off the news, because it is made to keep you emotionally exhausted. And I need to know one more thing because I need to know, what's out there. And so yeah, if you turn off for 3 weeks, how much would your life change? Now sometimes you miss out, I think, on collective stories that kind of that we like this Damar Hamlin situation where this poor football player died.
See, what can someone fill me in? I don't know what happened to him.
Oh, so bad.
So yeah, just a couple
Did he
nights
die?
ago he died, and they revived him, but now he's in critical condition.
24 years old. Football player, seemingly okay, stands up after making a tackle and then falls flat on his back. They postponed the game, which is like unheard of.
Yeah.
He was down for probably 45 minutes or more while they were coming in to work on him. They took him off, and he's, basically sedated and on oxygen.
Yeah.
He's 24 years
His
old.
heart stop or something?
Yeah. He got hit.
Because he got hit right in the chest.
And at just at a vulnerable time in the heartbeat cycle, like ever so split. It's just the right, is my understanding of it. And you see all the other players, and these are grown men crying, for the entire world to see and watch.
Yeah. So like a story like that, like a
Yeah.
collective, I mean, in Ukraine too, a collective we're all praying for, we're all concerned about, and to be a part of the community of people who are suffering with these families. I can see that. But yeah, what is anxiety? It's like this fear about something I can't do anything about, right? And that's what so much of the news is. It's stories about issues and things that I can't do anything about, which creates, if you have some agency, that reduces anxiety. If I can do something about it, I have an answer to it, I can fix it, I can get involved, it brings everything down. Mm-hmm. But so much of the things are meant to keep you in that anxious state. You can't do anything about it. You just got to keep your head looking over your shoulder for the next shoe to drop. So I don't think it's helpful.
And so, I mean, and this just brings to mind what you were talking about with guilt and shame. Like guilt is an effect of something, and you can do something because it's a specific instance you can control.
Right.
And shame is a cloud that follows you around.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, when you're deciding what to do with your day, are you going to just take in all this information of stuff you can't control that's just going to like make you feel more nervous or whatever?
Right.
It's just going to get a rise out of you.
Right.
Or do you just shut it off and you say, I am only going to tackle the problems that greet me, on my way to work, while I'm at work, when I'm at home, with my family, with the people I know,
Right.
with the people around me.
Right.
It depends on who you are, right? It depends on what you're capable of dealing with, right?
But if you really,
I know quite a few.
Can't help someone far away, why even bother to hear about it? That's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, are you going to be the person that like sponsors a kid in Africa? Are you going to do that?
We do sponsor.
Booyah!
I was speaking.
But it's
it was a rhetorical
I know what
question.
you mean. I think exactly. That's my view. Is that especially first thing in the morning, turning on the TV while you're eating breakfast and watching the morning news show. Like, I can't think of a worse way to start your day, because you're going to hear the most horrific things right away, and that's going to set your day up, and you're already going to be kind of in that fight or flight stress mode. So yeah, I can't see how that would be helpful.
I do it every morning.
Oh.
And the kids and I watch together every single morning. Yeah, I know.
But you can handle you
Beaky
actually
family news
are.
sesh.
Yeah. Well, it's because I think I want to know what is going on.
But why?
Just for the sake of reality. Like, to me, I am okay.
And
saying,
you trust the news.
Well, see, that's something else too I was going to bring up. I mean, we had a friend who was a reporter here in Milwaukee. He's now in another state, but one of the things that he complained about a lot when he was doing reporting was that he would have to like be really like intrusive with families who were grieving, trying to really get the story,
juicy
and
story.
get the juice and get all the inside info from a family that was grieving over whatever. So he didn't like that. And I mean, I guess do I trust the news? Well, about as much as I trust anything. It's like, well, God's got it figured out. I don't know. So I just like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's collective knowledge, like
Yeah.
something to talk about with strangers, oh, the war in Ukraine, huh? Like something, like, and
That'll
just
catch you.
that'll get you, Or I think, just to be aware of the real world, what is happening in the real world. People are dying. People are being shot in Milwaukee on a daily basis. It sucks. But I know that it's happening. I think to ignore it, ignorance is bliss, right? Like I don't, that does not helpful to me.
For me, it's like, what can I want to know things that I can do about it. But I also appreciate people who do watch the news, because usually it's like Bill, or I didn't know about Damar Hamlin until somebody called me and it's like, did you know about this? And so keep watching the news, and then can you let me know what I should know
I'll
about?
filter. I'll
I know if there's something
through.
I should care about.
Yes, I can do that. Yes.
Yeah. And it definitely is. I appreciate, I think that's why I like maybe even getting things from other sources than the major news networks, is because like they say they don't have a bias, but all of them do have a bias.
Yes.
And I appreciate people are just so openly, this is my bias. And then, okay, we're going to get your bias. And then I can go to the other person and know their bias. And
did you read that article that Pastor Bill sent about the trends for churches?
Yeah.
Okay. So like one of the points was the 2023 trends for thriving churches is content curation.
Yeah.
And I had never thought about it this way, but it seems like content curation is like becoming a really big thing, because there is so much information out there and so many different biases and perspectives and whatnot. And what do I trust? What do I listen to? That if you can find a trusted pastor or mentor or something that can kind of curate the content, in other words, maybe putting together a newsletter with, highlights or reputable sources, that becomes like a really important resource for people. So instead of having to go through the internet or TikTok or the news and having to sort through everything on your own, you kind of have a trusted, and I think you're like that a lot too. Like you do that, when you're reading all these books that I will never ever read. But that I trust your opinion on them, and you read them and you kind of summarize it and you get the point and you apply it to whatever we're talking about. That to me is content curation, where I don't have to read it myself or even make the decision, is this reputable or whatever. So I thought that was a good point, and that kind of reminds me of sorting through news biases and stuff.
Yeah, we don't need a lot. We're not starving for information. We're starving for meaning.
Yeah.
We need somebody to help us process it and tell us what matters. And because when you see everything, you don't see anything that matters. But if somebody could highlight things and bring out what matters, we need people to help us create meaning out of a lot of information. Yeah.
Church is the new news outlet, because they'll just tie everything in with God's word and
There
say,
you go.
this is what matters, this is what doesn't.
Well, yeah, I think I wouldn't know if I would put it that. You don't want to be so relevant on all the trendy ideas as a church, in the sense of, like, especially from the pulpit, I think, where it becomes so irrelevant because you're trying to just be so edgy and cutting edge and bias and all that. But I think if you can show people how to have a balanced approach to life and a biblical approach to life, that can be really helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Did we solve all your problems,
Yeah,
Matt?
solving problems.
Climbed yet another sycamore today.
So you're not going to watch the news?
I don't.
You never do?
I don't ever turn on the TV. I mean, I just hear bits and things from here and there, but
I can't imagine not knowing what was going on.
I know. And sometimes I do feel like, oh man, I kind of missed that. But it's like, well, is my life any different because of it? Oh, like, what would I have done if I knew? Nothing. That's what I would have done. It just would have made me think about it for a minute.
But you don't learn off of, I guess for me too, it's like a learning thing. Do you not get any knowledge off of, do you not, as a result of, I don't know, say the war in Ukraine, do you not then start thinking about well, how did we get here? What are the implications of this? What are the resources at stake? What are do you not I guess for me, it's you're learning when you know about these stories. Damar Hamlin. Who knew that was even a thing, that your heart could beat in such a way that you get impacted such a time that it would do this thing, and you learn.
Yeah.
So it's I can't do anything about it. I can't go and help, Ukraine. But
I think it's helpful if it helps you learn and live in reality. I think when it creates paranoia, or I heard this story about this shooter, now I'm looking around every corner, I can't go anywhere.
Yes.
I hear about this divide out there between Republicans and Democrats. Now I can't talk to my neighbor because they're from the other party and I'm sure they hate me. And it's like, so when everything gets inflated, I think, so is this kind of, do we talk about this offline or online? The conspiracy theorists?
Oh, offline. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's before we turn the mics on, but, that's an extreme case where somebody is listening to so many different fake news sources that they've built a whole alternative reality in their brain, and they live in a fake world. Well, I think even traditional news can lead you in that kind of fake world where it's so catastrophized that you are concerned about looking around the next corner because you heard that this is happening in your, in the world. So, almost like I hear about Ukraine, I live it right here, even though it's happening way over there.
Yeah, right.
In the sense, I think some people do and I've heard of, people I know who won't leave because they've heard something on the news. So if it changes your life in negative ways, if it creates information that you're like, this is helpful for me, now I know how to react to this, that's good. But I don't think it's always helpful.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
If you'd like to get a hold of us here at the Climbing Sycamores podcast, feel free to email bsadler@victoryofthelamb.com. bsadler@victoryofthelamb.com. If you like today's intro music, it's been brought to you by Andrew Lynch's song, My Name, Hello.